Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Do you love unraveling a good old-fashioned whodunit? Oh, honey, me too. I'm Alicia, armchair detective and host of Dead On, a true crime podcast. Join me every Friday. We'll dive into a case that scratches your itch for true crime, dark history, and mystery. Streaming now, everywhere you love to listen.
This podcast contains strong language and adult situations and may not be suitable for those who are easily offended. Welcome to the Fuck My Work Life podcast, where the work stories are real, the laughs are contagious, and most of us can agree that work sucks. So let's clock out and tune in. Welcome back, fuckers.
Hey, fuckers. It's Kay.
And Jay.
And we're here with another special guest episode
of the Fuck My Work Life podcast.
Yes, that one.
That one.
So we have a very special guest with us tonight. I like to think of her as my guru of life advice. I listen to her in the mornings when her episodes come out when I'm getting ready for work, and she's always got great advice on a wide range of topics. We are joined tonight by Mama D from the Petals of Support podcast. Hey, Mama D.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. It's fun because you were on mine, Kay, and I was so nervous. And this time I'm so excited. I'm not nervous at all. And you'd think it would be, being on somebody else's, but I think because I got to know you. And
yeah,
I'm excited. And I get to know Jay now, too. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. You should be nervous.
No, I was nervous to be on yours, too. I was like, whoa.
What's she going to do?
I'm like, I have to watch my mouth, my sailor mouth, and hopefully my advice doesn't suck. But
it didn't. It was such a good episode, and I loved having you on. But yeah, the language thing has always been, I don't regret having that as kind of a rule, so anyone can listen to it, but it does. I know it can be hard for some of my guests, and I've learned how to edit really well because I go back and I'm like, I'll leave that one in, but not that one.
Yeah. So. I mean, I get it. You open yourself up to a much wider audience, keeping it clean. We were just like, we were already losing with the name of our podcast, so it doesn't matter.
That was fun, because I think I was getting ready to say you were going to be on, and I'm like, she's from F my work life, but not F. I couldn't remember how to say it. Just like, you know what I mean. But
the F dash my work life.
Yep.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. Before we get into your work stories, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your podcast?
Well, my podcast is Petals of Support, and it was a bi-weekly, but I am down to once a week for now. So it comes out on Tuesdays, and it's available everywhere. But life gets a little busy for Mama D during sports seasons. So I thought instead of getting something out just to get it out, I'd rather continue making sure that I'm happy with what I put out there, because I think we all know that we have to be happy with what we produce and not be, sometimes I cringe, but I want to be happy with what I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
So we're doing just Tuesdays, and it is life advice from a mom. And I don't mean it's life advice for moms. It's just life advice from me, who is a mom. And it's the advice that I give my kids or my friends or my family. And then I have gotten good at editing, which means I can have guests on. And that has been so much fun for me. So those are called sleepovers. Kay was on, and I think we called that my working sleepover, I want to say, because again, I could not use the terms I wanted to use. So was like, it would be the best thing ever to call it my fucking sleepover. But I thought, no, then I got to hit that explicit button. So, but I've had quite a few podcasters on, and it's been great because the advice you share, even if it's something I've said, you have a different perspective, which I think can be helpful. So I learn a lot and I have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, that's me.
I love your solo episodes because it just feels like, you're just sitting down with a friend and like getting advice.
Good.
But I also love the guests too, because it's like, it just brings a different perspective or whatever. So it's like, I like the combination of both.
It's worked out. I was kind of, obviously, when you start something new, just a podcast, anything new is scary.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to have guests on. So I was very careful. So my first ones are not the most awesome with the guests because I was learning, but they were my friends. So they gave me a lot of grace to, can we record that again? Or can we do this? So over time, I've gotten better. So my most recent guest, Dr. Lulu, I didn't know her and she reached out to me. And it was like big deal for me to have someone that didn't know me say, can I be on? And so that was a big step. So we're taking the steps. One day I'm going to have like, the Kardashians on. I'm going big, it's going to be like presidential debates on my podcast.
There you go.
Just give me time. Advice from the presidential candidates, which would be probably no one would listen. I know I wouldn't listen to that. So I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I don't care what they have to say.
No, not good stuff. But
Dr. Lulu was great.
Thank you. I wasn't what I thought she was going to talk about. She talked about at the end with her life. But the beginning part, I didn't expect her to ask me questions and then kind of start digging into my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't sign up for that. But I learned a lot and I've thought about things that she said. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot we all need to kind of unload a little bit more and dig a little deeper. I can't just say it's guilt that makes me do it. Why? And so she was right. That is kind of what she does for a living. So I would hope hope she knows what she's talking about. But I thought, and she was just a kind, funny person. So go check that one out. That was a good episode. But if you want to laugh, there's a ton of them that are just a lot of laughing, especially when I had you on. We had a lot of laughing.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah, you guys recorded for a while.
You came in with the cat at one point.
Cut it out in there, ladies. Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. And I always say, we'll record for a while and then I'll edit it out. But I end up just making a 2-part episode because I don't want to cut things out that people tell me unless it's something really off the wall. But even those I keep in.
So I know you've got some great stories lined up, and you actually sent in, I think, one of my all-time favorite stories that we've had on our podcast on our, I think it was the Power of Friendship episode. But you and your friend chasing down the ice cream truck and throwing shoes and like, it is such a great story. So if anyone hasn't listened to that episode, go listen to that. You can hear Mama D's story on that one. But now we've got you here to tell your stories in person, live.
I'm looking at you guys. I get to see your smiling faces. So that's good. Because when you're writing it yourself, you're kind of like, well, am I explaining it right? How stupid do we really sound? We chased down an ice cream truck. It doesn't sound, but in the moment it was funny. And I appreciated when you read it that you got that it was supposed to be funny. Like it wasn't this horrible thing. And it wasn't even sad because at the end with all the kids coming out, I'm like, I don't want anybody to be like, oh, this is a sad story. Because it wasn't. It was just kind of a cool what happened afterwards. So
yeah. You painted a really good picture, I think, of what was happening. It was great.
Well, and I warned you guys before. I'm like, I kind of talk a lot. Go figure. We're podcasters. That's what we do. But you have to see the whole picture to appreciate something. So I'm sorry to all of your listeners if I do paint the big picture, but that's just, I think, how I do it. Because you have to see it. You have to see it. You have to be there to the best you can. So you get just the fun that I experienced as a social worker. It was the adventure.
Well, it makes you a good storyteller, right? Like you don't want to just be like, and then this happened. You gotta
paint it.
Yeah, you gotta do the build up. Yeah.
Yes. Otherwise, it's just words.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and by the time we hit the last story, when I'm done with the wine glass, you guys will be like, holy hell, Mama D, shut up. We didn't need to know what kind of carpet there was,
I'm pretty sure we just told you we've gone like 4 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's no quit.
Yeah.
There's a pause while we go refill our wine glasses.
Mhm.
Yep, that works. But, well, before I get started, I just want to share with you guys, just because I know that some of these stories can come across as maybe not caring on my part, and I don't want that to be the way people see me.
Mhm.
This is just kind of a coping skill that we all did. And this was my first, like real job out of college. So I went into it with the big bright eyes. I had a degree in child psychology. I'm going to go out there and fix people. I'm going to be great. And I get this job, and it's easiest to say I was a social worker, but that's not really what I was, but it's the easiest way to say it. But I worked with special treatment foster care kids.
Mhm.
So these are kids who, for whatever reason, could not be in a typical foster home. And we needed foster parents who understood that their job was not just going to be take these kids into your home until maybe they can be reunited. They're not going to be reunited. I hate to say that, but most likely, at least in the years I did and all the clients I had, I never saw reunification happen. I never even saw it get close.
Wow.
And that's because these kids, the issues that they had all stemmed from even before they were born. So there was people needed to change, and people were not going to change. And so these kids could not be put back in that home. So, we had to teach our parents that, you're going to be taking them to a buttload of appointments. You're handling medications, and then you're reporting back to us, because these kids, and I won't say all, had mental illness to some degree.
Mhm.
And most of them had more than one, because unfortunately, one can lead to another. And really, unfortunately, a lot of medications can then lead to other issues. And I know some people don't like labels, and I totally agree with that. And I think that we throw around terms too easily, depression and schizophrenia. But when you've really dealt with a kid that's schizophrenic, it's a scary ass thing. It exists, and those kids need medication, not just for them, but because I don't want them out, and I don't want them in my car. Not on it. I don't have the cage in the back. I'm not putting them back there. So I say all this to say that, if I did not get a coping skill going on, I was going to break. So we learned early, all of us, to joke. And they were inappropriate jokes. They were it was whatever we could do to not cry. And I cried. I cried quite often. But it was the first time I had to pick up some kids, and they were being removed from a foster home from one county. Not their own fault, and not my fault, and not the social worker's fault, or the caseworker for the county's fault. The county's just like, you got to move these kids. We found a better deal somewhere else, or whatever. We don't have a choice. So I go and pick up these kids who their belongings are in a trash bag. They do not have suitcases.
Aww.
And some have one trash bag. Some had numerous trash bags. But we knew that these trash bags had been used and used. So we had a joke. We had trash bags with, just name brands. So you'd be like, you're getting the Gucci bag for them. And it sounds so horrible, like who's getting the Louis Vuitton bag? But you had to, when you were leaving the office, say something, because you knew that these kids who didn't know me, you're getting pulled up, and this caseworker's getting Miss Mama D's car, even though it wasn't Mama D, getting Miss Mama D's car, and she's going to take you and just drop your ass off at this foster home.
Yeah.
And I knew they were going to a good place, a good foster home. I couldn't tell you for how long, but they're scared to death. And I can't cry. That's not what I can do. I had to be we're going to turn some music on. I'm going to try, but they're crying or they're pissed off. And some of these kids are big kids. And I'm, 24 years old, just like, this little white girl going, just please don't damage my car. It's a little Grand Prix. Don't hurt this thing. And you had to laugh. You had to joke. So when I share these stories, I know that they might not sound like awesomely caring, or I joke about things, but it is still so I don't cry, because I've worked through a lot of it. And, the emotions are good. but not when I tell stories. I don't want people to be like, sitting there listening to your episode going, why did you have this crazy woman on? I'm crying on my way to work and I wanted to hear about fuck my work life. But so no, I, don't want to do that. So I don't want people to think that I'm this uncaring, horrible person. That's not what I
I don't think anyone's going to think that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, I think maybe coming from you, you might think people see you as like when you're telling the story and you feel like there's no emotion there.
Yes.
Because you're making jokes about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people realize that if they were in that situation, they would have to make light of, like you have to make light of a bad situation.
Yeah.
And
I think most people use humor to cope too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do.
Otherwise, you're going to come away from those situations just as fucked up as those kids that you were picking up.
Right. And I'm not a help to the next ones. And the whole goal is to be a help to the next one. I mean, I did it for a while and I loved it. I will always say that if I could go back to doing it, I would. But the lifestyle that you have to have. I'm 46 years old. I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And I quit when I had my kids because I could not do, people do. And I give so much credit to my coworkers who had kids at home. I personally couldn't. And I was able to identify that pretty darn quickly that, this is going to carry over and it's going to leak into other things because it already was. So anyone who does it with a family on the side or in their life too, I applaud because I couldn't. But that's why we have the funny stories. And those are the ones I look back on and go, it was a shit show, but there were some moments that were really freaking funny. And then the last story I have is I was a fucking badass. And I still to this day am trespassed from a school because of it. So and I wear that with pride, even though it's in my maiden name. So they don't technically know it's me. I'm still proud of that one. So I don't want to get like where I can't go watch my kids play sports there. I mean, we're not that proud, but we're proud enough to be like, there's a file in there with my damn name on it. And
they have your picture in the office. Do not allow.
Do not admit.
If it's my 20-something-year-old picture, I'd be proud of that too. I'd be like, look at that. Look at before Momedy got old. I was looking good then, but I was faster. But yes. So if you guys would like some stories, I will share the first one. And you can cut me off or ask questions because sometimes I forget that I use, terms maybe that people don't get. So, or I'm not explaining things correctly. So I worked with the older kids. That just is who I fit with better. And it worked. And then sometimes you requested or whatever. But I had one client who she was in high school. And before I got her on my caseload, she actually was already going to like a joint vocational school. We called it JVS. But I think in different areas, it's called different things. But it's where they go to high school for so long and then probably going into their sophomore year for whatever reason, they decide they want to go to more of a technical school and they go there for a couple years and then they can go on to maybe even a more technical school or even get a job straight. So for some kids, it's my oldest has friends who did that for like HVAC and everything, and they're like killing it right now. So it's a great program. Yeah. Well, this girl decided she was going to do hairdressing, and she would come into my office, and she would have one of those heads that she would work on, and she's like manipulating the hell out of this head. And I'd sit there and talk to her, and I'd be like, "Holy crap!" Like I hope they're teaching you that you can't do that to a person. Like she's flipping this head around, and everything. And she loved it though. And so she had coming up, it was her senior year, and she really wanted to go to like a cosmetology school, which, cost some money. And she had learned a lot in the program she was in, but this is that kind of thing where, you get good. Yeah. Maybe you learn things like nails and everything that gets you that job that I would love for her to have. And most of my kids were not going to work. They did not have the either level of education or the social skills or
Yeah.
the anger management skills to work in the public.
Yeah.
They were going to a group home. So when you had a kid that was like, this is what I want to do, you're like, yeah, we're going to do our best. So she and I were like talking about, this is what it's going to cost, because it's not like it's free.
Yeah.
Well, this program she was in had a thing at the end of the semester, and it was a contest. All the kids who were seniors could participate in it. And first prize got a full ride, if you want to call it, to this cosmetology school.
Oh, wow.
Second place got a certain percentage, and third place got a certain percentage. So she comes in, and again, she's got that damn head with her. And she's like whipping it around. I'm like, okay, so what happens if you don't win? Like, I mean, what's the full amount we're going for? Because I'm not thinking you're going to do this,
Yeah.
But, you're just, praising her. You're going to get this done. So we figured out, we talked to the county, and her county was actually really good. And they're like, hey, we'll find you scholarships. We're going to figure this out for you. Because again, this is pretty special when somebody who had gone through, she had one hell of a past. She was breaking the cycle. And you're just like, what, all I can do is get her there to the best of my ability. And if she makes bad choices later, that at some point becomes on you. You can't just say it was because of your past. We set you up to be able to be the best you can be. So her friend's going to come in. She's going to, she's got to have a person to do this hair on. And, the cosmetology school is going to come, and they're going to, grade us and everything. This big deal. So she's got a friend who's going to come do it. So the day I'm in my office, the phone rings, and it's her. And she is sobbing because apparently her friend did not think that this is a school day. And she went to high school. She hadn't gotten permission to leave school to go be the, I don't know what you would...
Crash test dummy.
Test dummy. Yes, that's what we'll call her. So my client had nobody. So I'm like, okay, we're going to find somebody. She's like, Miss Mama D, we have like, an hour. I'm like, holy hell. So I'm calling her, she's calling her. No, but we couldn't find anybody. Nothing. So all of a sudden, she's like, will you do it? I'm like, what?
I'm sorry,
That's not in my job description.
I'm like, what? And, Mama D has, curly, thick, dark hair. You can't see, like, I'm all pulled up and everything. But I'm like, sweetheart, I don't know if you are used, like, Mama D's hair is not what you've been practicing, because I've seen those heads you're bringing. That's not what you're working with. She's like, no, I can do it. And I said, well, fine. This is what I do. I will come. I'm getting paid extra for this, what I said, but there are rules. The main one is you may not cut any part of my hair, nor may you do anything to my hair that I can't then fix within an hour. So there's no dyeing going on. There is no, like, you're not putting extensions in and sewing it. We're not doing any of that. Oh, no, I don't need to do it. She's like, I know exactly what to do. So I'm like, all right, I'm leaving. So I leave and I drive to the school. And the first thing I notice when the door opens, because I'm running, and I get in there, is that there's an audience.
Oh, geez.
I didn't know there was an audience. Kind of hurt she hadn't invited me. Not that I really wanted to go sit and witness this, but I'm like, there's like family here and everything. And the second thing I noticed is I am the only white girl it's me. And they all turn and look at me, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so bad, because I don't think any of us are prepared for what's about to go down. But she runs over, big hug. And that's what makes it worth it. Big hug. And she's telling everyone that I am, this is Miss Mama D. She's my such and such, and she loves me. She kept saying that. And she trusts me with her hair. And I'm like, I don't. So we sit down, and here comes the judge. And she, introduces herself. And I'm like, again, sweetheart, where are the scissors? They go over there. I'm like, I do not, I love you, but I don't trust you to not be like, oh, look, that piece is sticking out, and just cut it. So I sit down, and I'm facing all these other little girls are sitting in chairs, and the, stylists are all ready, and they got all their stuff, and there's a lot of hair product that I've never seen before in my life. And I'm like, I don't know what my hair is going to handle. Yeah. It's not going to do the same thing, honey, Oh, I got this. And she stands, she looks at me, she's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm like, awesome. This could be awesome. Time starts. They had so long. She starts doing what I can only describe as cornrows on the left side of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And she would do it down to a certain point, and there's like beads and everything. She's going to town. And then she stops midway. And she said, I'm going to do something different on the other side. I'm like, why? Like, I've never in my life seen somebody with like two totally. She's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, I really don't. I just don't think you do either. But I think she was getting irritated with me. She flips my chair. So now I can't even see a mirror. It's just
Oh,
me.
no.
She gets out a big flat iron. And, there's like, it was a lot. And I will say that what I realized is that she was extremely gentle. She was extremely professional. She asked me, she tried to do small talk, but you could tell, because I'm sure they told them, you need to small talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all been to hairdressers, they do that.
Yeah.
She tried, but she was obviously very, very into the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's like stuff that I can only describe as like shellac or like wallpaper paste. And it's like in my hair. And she'd take a step back. She'd be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm going for. I'm like, oh, what? At one point, she pulled out extensions. And she's like, well, these are the extensions for so-and-so. And I'm like, sweetheart, those are jet black. And they're like to my butt. I have brown hair. It's not, oh, you don't know. She's like, I'm not going to sew them in. I'm just going to do this tie thing. And I'm like, whatever. I'm like thinking, you're putting enough paste on my hair. Nothing's coming out. Like, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Bell rings. And she flips the chair. And I can only describe it as, the bay and flock of seagulls.
Mm-hmm.
And it would like flip into, that was one side of my damn head.
Wow.
Okay. But the other side were braids. And then in the back was this twisty thing that she somehow joined it all together. And I'm like, oh, what do you think? I'm like, oh. And I look around and I realize that every other kid didn't have something to the extent I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not what I was expecting. Like, I was expecting prom updos.
Yeah.
There seemed to be some sort of like impressionist going on. Like, there was no like this. It was how you felt is how
That's
you
some
did
Van
hair.
Gogh shit right
Yeah.
there.
It was. I was like, thank God I took the scissors away because I got some ears. I mean, we're doing okay here, And she didn't win.
Aww.
She got third. The one who won, they had intertwined, I think that they were fake flowers. It was weird. I mean, It was like where you're sitting there going, I wonder what the criteria was. Like, is there a checkbox? Because both of them on their own scale here are weird. But at least mine's not moving. Like, so they're like, thank you.
At least mine's not moving.
Yeah, mine's not going anywhere. So she hugs me, and she was so proud of third place. It was such a big deal. And she's like, no, you said that we were going to get scholarships to cover the rest. And I said, yes, sweetie, we're going to do what we got to do, And before I left, the person from the school came over and they gave me a business card. And they said, if you could please call me in a couple days. And I said, that's fine. I said, but I just want you to know, like, I'm not coming to your school and having this done. Like, I'm not like a crash test dummy for other schools. This was a one-time shot. And she laughed. She's like, no. But I'm leaving and I'm realizing that I'm now going out in public. It's like one half of the seagulls landed and the other half are like, no, this is some bullshit. And they're gone.
The other half was drunk.
They're like Jamaica. And then these are, oh my gosh. But what's the best thing is I show up at the office and I walk in, and because of what we did, no one batted an eyelash. It's like I go walking in. They're like, how'd she do? I go third. They're like, that's cool. And I just walk back to my office and I sit there to write my notes. And I'm like, I'm getting paid. Like, how do you write? Oh, well, before I was like, I need to get someone to take a picture, because how do you write this up as a billable, like 3 hours of time? Yeah. I need pictures. So I called one of my coworkers. I'm like, I need you to go get the, Polaroid. Mm-hmm. So she did. She took pictures. And then 3 of my coworkers came in with a trash can and like stuff to remove all of it, because they're like, we can't send you home looking like that. I'm like, thank God, because I was going to the grocery store.
Oh, no.
And like, I don't even know how, but we tried. We got the braids out and they combed all of it over. I still looked like I was literally nuts, going into a store like that. But I'm like, yeah. So the best part, though, was a couple days later, I called the school and they said that because of everything, her circumstances, they would give her a full ride.
Aw.
But they had certain conditions,
Mhm.
and she had to attend every class. Like, I mean, it was not you could slack.
Yeah.
And she did, and she graduated. Now, what she did with it
Nice.
after that, I don't know. But they were very impressed that in a moment of total stress, she called.
Mhm.
But she knew who to call. She knew to call the crazy one who's like, yeah, cancel my appointments. I'm going to get my hair did, and off I went. But so that's story number one.
So you don't know what happened to her?
No, they were welcome to communicate with us,
Mhm.
but a lot of them, as soon as they turned 18 or graduated high school, the county pretty much,
It's done.
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah.
The next story actually kind of goes into that, where you could petition, but it was not an easy process. And she did not have a reason why she couldn't at graduation be on her own, because we had set her up. We didn't find the apartments. We could if the county would allow us to.
Mhm.
But a lot of the times it was, just we've got more coming in and we need that foster home.
I don't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but on our TikTok feed and our Instagram feed, we usually make little pictures of upcoming episodes.
You want the Polaroid?
And you mentioned Polaroids
You need
of your
Polaroid.
hairdo. And, well, I don't need it. I don't need it. But, man, would it draw some... It would draw some attention to this episode.
I'm on in this picture.
It was a look. Like, it's the best way to describe it, because again, this is like, 2000, early 2000s. So, there's a look going on in general. And then you just start giving a bunch of teenagers, like, I think they had access to whatever hair product but I just never got, like, what makes you look at somebody's head and go, yeah, what I'm thinking is braids, and then this and then this thing in the back. I'm like, where would I wear it? And she's just, oh no, it looks good. And I'm like, does it?
You notice she's dodging the question, right?
Oh, I don't have access. No, those things go in the file.
Oh.
And this, of course, was back before, like, you had
digital
phones with
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, if I could have kept that photo, heck yeah, I would have. Because that's like my kids. I'd be like, either do what I want, or this. No, it's not going out as me. It's going out as their mom. And I'll put it out everywhere because I have no shame. And, let your friends know this is what your mom was like. And they'd probably do what I wanted then. But yeah, it was a look. It was a look. And I'm proud of her. Very proud of her.
I like that
good.
there's a happy ending to that one.
Those are the ones I think I remember the most, is the happy ending ones. The ones that didn't are still in there. But I think that you just kind of don't really want to, don't want to relive those.
Don't want to drum those ones up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did my fair share of visiting kids in prison, or, we had a lot of inpatient hospitalizations for all sorts of things. And what do you do? Because you feel like a failure, because you could not do enough.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get older and you look back, you realize that you did all you could do given what you had.
Yeah.
And the kids honestly were doing all they could do given what they had. But there was too much stacked against a lot of them. And I just didn't have the abilities. I wasn't given the abilities. And even given them, I don't know if I could have done any better than I did.
You probably couldn't. You probably couldn't.
It's such a, it's
like, it's
a sad system. It's a sad, I mean, not even just the system, just people can be awful,
I put so much of it on the parents or the biological people, because they were not parents.
Yeah.
Some of it is on the kids, because there is a moment for ones that were not dealing with other things, dealing with voices, or dealing with maybe being overly medicated. There's a moment where I'm standing here and I have a match and there's a cornfield. I know what's going to happen. And they still did it.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Wow.
showing up at the police station going, and there's that shrug. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. I get that, some attention is better than no attention to a lot of them.
Yes.
But I'm like, dude, you were getting a lot of attention. I was giving you so much attention when you were going to work and you were doing what you're supposed to do. I was, we were praising, we were doing parties for that. So then what more can I do to do the positive reinforcement?
Yeah.
But now, all that hard work is going to go to pay off a cornfield because why? And it's not even like someone dared you. I mean, at least have a story behind it. Someone dared me to do it. And I'd be like, well, you're stupid and they're stupid.
Yeah.
But just what,
For
I
no
pulled over
reason.
and did this. Yeah. I'm like, I don't. But hey, I'm sure they didn't even know that. But that's the thing is they didn't know why. I'm asking them for something that they couldn't answer. But
sad.
yeah, so there's the stories where just like, they're
Yeah.
not fun. They're not the fun one.
Yeah.
It is why I am who I am. There's a lot of reasons. It's why, you are who you are because of what you do and what you did before you. But I will say that the reason why I'm who I am is definitely, and the reason why I have the relationship that I have with my kids, and that is something I'm very proud of, is because I saw the other stuff happening. And I'm like, we're not going to be besties, but we're also not going to be drill sergeants either.
Yeah.
So I have this great, and I worked hard for what I have with them because I've seen bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also seen really damn funny. And I've seen, I've had moments and I would never, give any of it up, even the horrible things. But
Yeah. How long did you do it?
did it for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Long
And
enough.
then I had,
Yeah.
yeah. And I loved, that's what's so crazy is I will say I loved it.
Mhm.
But I loved it because I loved those kids.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Some of them are assholes. But, I can say, I was telling you earlier, my youngest can be that, it's just they're teenagers because that's, like I said, who I worked with. So you have got all the teenager energy and just what a normal, quote unquote, normal teenager has.
Mhm.
Then you have kids who have abandonment issues. And their anger level is like a whole, that's what people, I have anger problems. No, you seriously, maybe you do. I'm not saying you do or don't, but I've seen it. Or, I don't know, people don't need therapy for anger. Yeah. Because I can only imagine what some of those kids, and they're the ones when you ask if I keep touch,
Mhm.
I don't know if I want to know.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it went well. And I'd rather picture their little faces,
Yeah.
The way they left than picture their faces the way they left than where they may be now.
Yeah, because they were beautiful, smiling. They were funny.
Mhm.
And, we would go toe to toe sometimes. I remember the kid that came out, he had stolen toilet paper. We stole toilet paper because he had grown up poor.
Mhm.
And every time we moved him, he didn't know if the next foster home was going to have toilet paper.
Oh.
Valid point. So we're going to take our own. But he stole one of those huge ass rolls of it.
Oh.
We're talking like the
industrial.
like business size.
Yeah.
So he walks in, they're like, he stole it. And I'm like, did you? And he's like, he's got this book bag and he's like hunched over. He's like, no. I said, what's in your book bag? And he's looking at me and then he does this grin and I'm like, dude, what do you have in your book bag? And it was huge. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with that? He's like, well, what if you, I'm like, where are you going to take that? Like, literally, is this what you're going to take around with you? And do you think I promise you, I go, every place I put you, I will buy you a 6-pack of Charmin. I promise you. And I did. And when he left, I bought him like a big crate of it. And I said, there, at least, you don't have to worry about this. But that's the stuff they worried about. So you're like, no wonder you're pissed off all the time.
Yeah. He was the one that started the toilet paper shortage at the beginning of the pandemic.
I would not be surprised. If he was in the news, I'd be like, oh, is that grin? I know that grin.
He was the guy outside of Costco going, this stuff's going to be worth more than gold.
Been stealing this for years.
6 months, this is going to be worth more than 4 pounds of gold.
That's right. Oh, it was huge. It's so funny.
I'm Dan,
I'm Lou, and together we are Casting Views.
an uncle and nephew chatting on random topics, some heavy, some fun, but we aim to amuse.
Don't miss out, don't delay. Subscribe to Casting Views today.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Good Pods.
Alrighty. So story two. Story two is about the girl that I talked about. I wrote the story in, and it was the girl that was a woman who was a client, who I wanted to teach how to ride public transportation because I was very big on you need to have some skills. Even if you honestly are not going to use them, there's something empowering about being able to do things. So I got most of the kids jobs, fast food places, because I could get them there. I got them library cards because this was back in library card day. And I wanted her to learn how to ride the bus. And we have a bus line in a neighboring city, if you want to call it a city. And it was this kind of, I knew she wasn't going to stay there. I knew what was going to happen to her, but it was something I could teach her.
Yeah.
So this is about her. And I love her, and I have no clue where she is. I don't really want to know. So we're just going to remember her in these stories because she was a hoot. She was very, very low functioning, but a heart of gold, happy. And her mother, her biological mother, was a sex worker, and we're going to use the correct term. But I understand why we use the term sex worker, because there is no shame in somebody who chooses that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There is shame in being a piece of shit.
Yes.
And that is who she was.
Yeah.
I don't care. She put that child in harm's way. She is the reason why she was low functioning. She did not give her a good start. She did things that she shouldn't have done prior to having her.
Oh.
And then the reason she was taken away was things that should never happen to a child.
Oh, no.
So the fact that this girl could be the ray of sunshine that she was is just proof that I believe in God. So it's proof that God was there watching out for her and gave her at least the ability to be loved by so many of us, put her in a place where we could love her. She was not going to graduate from high school. She was in special classes that weren't ones that were on a path to graduate with even a GED. These were just basic classes. We're not talking about like how to even use a checkbook. We're not going to be able to do that. We're going to read certain amounts. And she turned 18, and she was going to turn 18 at this point, and she was still in the system. And we had every hope that she would be able to remain in the system as long as she could, because we knew that we could try to get her in a group home, but we also knew that bio mom, was going to come slinking out from the depths of hell because this girl was going to be money for her.
Yeah.
And we knew this. So if we could keep her in the system as long as possible, we were going to do it. And I was on board with this. And thankfully, her caseworker from the county, who was awesome. We both 100%. So
can I interrupt and ask one quick question?
Yes, of course.
So as long as she's in the system, the mom can't come in and claim anything. Is that
right?
Okay.
Yes. She was still custody of the
ward of the state
Ward of the state,
yes, that'd be the best way. Now, there were visitation possibilities, but she did not take advantage of those, and she would disappear for lengthy periods of time. And then she would appear, and she never appeared willingly. It was usually she got arrested. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, look, I'm alive. And we're like, oh, yay. And she would try. And the sad part, the part that, again, those things that you do the dark humor about is that despite everything, and she knew what her mom had done.
Yeah.
I mean, she was in therapy for it. We would work through it because my whole thing was, don't let people take advantage of you. You don't have to say yes. but she was so easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And that could be the IQ. That could be just, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So, we didn't want mom to have anything to do with her, but she loved her mom. And that's the thing that we sometimes forget.
Yeah.
Is that you think, well, you're putting her in these foster homes. And she was not always, before she came to our foster system, she was in our foster organization. She was in others, whether it was special treatment, whether it was regular, who I can't really remember. But she didn't always have great foster homes. And even our foster homes, we did not always have good foster homes because special treatment meant more money. So you had people that are like, sign me up. I'll take extra classes. But they only wanted that extra how much money. They didn't want to go through with what it really meant.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. I mean, you're looking at property damage happening in your home. You're looking at needing to separate boys from girls and asking some tough questions. So, but she was at this point in her life in an excellent foster home, just the most amazing. This woman, every time she'd hang up the phone with me, she would say, "I love you." And that's just what she said.
Yeah.
And you say it, and you'd repeat it back automatically. And then you'd be like, did she really just say it to me? Then I realized that was her. She was just a loving person, and she was loving this child.
Yeah.
So we realized that we need to get in front of the judge before the 18th birthday and just present our case. Could she remain at least until she graduated from this class? We were hoping we could use that terminology because she could graduate in a year. She could graduate in 5 years.
Yeah.
There's really no end point going on. But we're like, let's see what we can do. So I take her. We took a little road trip down to her county to go to court, and I'm all dressed up, and she's, dressed up, and she was just a blast to go on road trip. She's like, when are we stopping to eat? All she cared about. So, you talk. So like road trip with her was awesome because you're like, and now we're going to go through McDonald's and we're drinking shakes. And I'm like, this is the best, my bestie right now. So we get down there and we walk in, and she sees the caseworker from the county, and she's like super excited. And her GAL was there, which is a guardian ad litem, which is her legal representation. They weren't as often there as we would like them to be, but she had a good one who was there. And then right there is Biomom.
No.
Biomom wearing, I'll never forget it because of later in the story, but low cut, just, she's got it all. Like if you were like, what does she do for a living? You're it'd be a narrow list of what she's wearing that to, bathing suit model. Maybe, it's a limited group. And then next to her was what we, I'm like, that's her pimp. That's got to be your pimp. And of course, the caseworker's like, that's exactly who, right now he just got out of prison. We're looking to get him locked back up, but we need proof of something. And I'm like, well, let's hope we don't see.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sex worker liaison.
Is that what we're going to call it? Yeah. I like it.
It's not a pimp.
Talent manager.
Yes.
Sex worker liaison.
Talent.
He is the go-between.
He was, and he was proud of it. It was, he just spoke like if you pictured what you'd see in a movie, this was this guy.
Sugar Bear.
He probably was. I wish I would have known his name, can remember his name, because I'm sure it was just purely wonderful.
Guilty.
But so we sit down and we present everything to the judge, and the judge asked her, the client, what she wanted to do, and the client got it, but then, she's answering the judge, and then all of a sudden her mom makes this noise.
Oh,
so she turns around, and then it's, I want to go home.
Oh, no.
But the judge was smart and's like, yeah, no, so unfortunately we didn't get this like blanket, she can stay in until she graduates. It was like a year or two, which we're like, we can come back. Yeah. But it gives us some time, So, and, the mom had done this, like, she's like, I'd like to speak. And
jeez.
Just boobs, or just like, there's some boobs and butt. And we're just like, awesome. I hope she speaks. So she went on this whole thing about how she had made mistakes. And now it was the time she just wanted her to come home. And she had bought a house, and it was this beautiful home. And I look at the, caseworker, and she's like, she doesn't have a house. Like she doesn't. where does she have a house?
They're gonna look into this. You don't just say it.
We know where you are at
Yeah.
all times, or we're trying. It's kind of, where's that house when we're trying to serve you with paperwork, honey? You know, I mean, it's magically popped up. You know, it's on like a semi truck, and she's just moving it. You know, and so she doesn't get her way, but she was odd because she, at the end, she raised her hand. She's like, you know, Judge, I do have a request. I understand why you're concerned, but I'd really like to have a visit. And since they're all here, could we have a visit today? And I look at the caseworker, she looks at me, we're like, oh, hell no, you know? And the judge is like, you know, and so then the caseworker thinking real quick on our feet is, well, yeah, we'll have it right here in the courthouse, like right now. And the mom, no, oh no, I have clothes for her. I bought her things and I need to go home and get them. So could we meet at this mall? This was, of course, back in the mall days when malls were, you know, and the caseworker and I were like, holy no, you know, so the judge said, well, you know, she does deserve a visit. So if you don't want to have it now, we'll make it a week from now and y'all can come back. And we're both thinking, we don't have those kind of schedules. Like I had at that point, probably 25 to 30 kids on my schedule. I can't just be like, I'm wiping this whole day clean to drive and do all of this. Plus, there's this part of me going, what the hell is she going to plan in a week? Like, that's a long time for her to plan, like, a murder and, you know, where to take the body. Like, well, you know, this isn't the best idea. So we're like, okay. So and we're like, okay, we'll meet you about an hour and a half at this mall. So we go back to her office where we're going to leave my car because we're like, well, we'll just ride together. Make a lot of sense. And she's like, you know what, we're going to take my coworker's car so they don't know it's us. Which, you know, you're thinking, I didn't have that level of stress in my job, but to think that that's what these caseworkers had to worry about was I need a different vehicle because they know mine.
They know my vehicle.
Right. So we're like, okay. So we get in the car with the client and we decided, like, I wanted to talk to her. I said, do you understand what happened today? And she's, you know, yeah. I said, are you okay with it? Are you okay with not going home? Well, yeah, I'm going home. I'm going back home to Miss So-and-so. That was her home. And on Monday, I have this thing due and this thing. She was fine. So, you know, I'm like, but do you understand? She's like, yeah, this is where I need to go. So then I said, okay, well, right now we're going to go have a visit with Mom. And she gets very, very excited. I said, but this is the thing. It's this length of time. I said, now you know that Miss Mama D needs to get back and you need to get back. So we can't be throwing fits. When I say it's time to go, you got to get up and we're going to go. She said, okay. And then she looks at me, she ate all her fruit. She's like, can we stop and get a milkshake on the way home? I said, if you get up and do not give me any sort of sass. Yes. I said, I'll get you a milkshake. We'll do that. And I'm like, you little manipulative child. Okay, you know, I'll get you a milkshake. Thank the good Lord I promised that milkshake, by the way. So we park. We go into this mall. It's a very big mall. This is a very big city in where I live. And we park and we strategically put ourselves where we're looking at doors. We got her food and the bio mom and the sex worker liaison had said, well, we'll buy you guys food. We're like, yeah, no, we'll buy our own food. We'll get our own food. You won't touch, like, you really don't want to date rape. You know, cool, we're good. You know, we'll hold our own drinks, you know. So we got our food and they're getting late. And we had a rule. Visit was from 1 to 2, let's say. You had till 2 o'clock. We're leaving. Like, we're not... Just like you would not want us to be late, we don't want you to be late. We all have lives. We have other things to do. So she's getting a little bit late. So we're like, hey, she might not even show up. Thankfully, the client I think I had gotten her like burgers. She was happy as hell. She didn't even know. Like, Mom, come, Mom, don't come. I don't care. I got burgers. You know? She's fine. Then in comes Mom, bio mom, and the boyfriend, the husband, whatever he was. And they come parading in and they sit down next to her. We're like, you know, we're all going to sit at the same table and we're going to listen. But we're also going to give you the respect of having a visit because she is technically almost 18. And also, I'm like, I want to hear what the hell you're going to say because that allows me to be a little bit more prepared on how manipulative you're going to be to this child. And she is going on about this home she has and how, you know, when you come home, I didn't get to raise you, but I'll get to raise your kids one day. And I'm like, who the hell says that? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that's my kids. I'm like, you know, that's not, no. So all of a sudden, and they're both watching the doors. And the caseworker and I are both watching them and watching the doors. All of a sudden, they start smiling. In walk 3 of the biggest men I've ever seen in my life.
Oh no.
Coats on.
Jeez.
And they look at their big grins. And these 3 men aren't grinning.
Yeah.
They take a look at them and they take a look at us and they nod. And that's all it took. I leaned over to the client and I said, remember how I said that when I say it's time to go, we go? She said, yeah. I go, it's time to go. I go, right fucking now. Right. And I think she heard my voice. She stands up and the caseworker, well, the other 2 we had pinned in the back, the mom and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't grab us.
Yeah.
And we stand up and the client looked at me and she said, are you scared? And I said, I am. I go, I'm scared. And she said, well, then we run.
Oh.
And this,
Wow.
I'm 5'6". The case manager was probably about my height. This girl was tall for her age. And she grabs our hands and she takes off running.
Oh.
So we are running through a mall. Now, we had both changed our shoes because this is what you mean. We're not stupid. We're not going in this kind of things in heels.
Yeah.
So we have running shoes on. She is running. We're running. And I think the saving grace is that because she was leading us, there was not a thought in her mind of strategy. So you can't chase somebody if you have no fucking clue what they're doing. She is weaving like we're going in stores only to come out of the store. It was like pure serpentine. We are everywhere. The best part, though, was we loop around and she's like, real loud, you told me I could ride the escalator. And I'm like, no escalator. And then all of a sudden we're on the escalator. So we're running. And then all of a sudden we're just standing on an escalator. And it was like, it was hilarious. But we look down and here they're looking for us and they're running. And we're like, we get to the top. And again, by luck, we end up right where at the store where the caseworker had parked because she, again, had the knowledge to not park in the parking garage. That's where she parked outside this random store, which, to be honest, probably wasn't the safest because it wasn't people.
Yeah.
But it was the most random place. So we're running. And again, client has us and we're like, she's getting ready to go. We're like, no, the car. So, she's running. We hit the door and, unfortunately, this is like not automatic lock time. So we're running. I'm screaming, open that door. And so we're opening. We slide in and she puts it in reverse and we're gone. And dead quiet in the car. So the caseworker said, well, I'm going to call my boss and we're going to call your boss and we're going to go on speakerphone and we're going to go. So we're going all over all of this and we're explaining and they're all freaking out. They're like, we need to call the police for all this stuff. You need to do this and this. And then my supervisor, God love her, says the client's name and she said, are you okay? And the client who's sitting in the back, just looking out the window, she said, yeah.
How about that shake, Mama D?
That's right. She said, but she goes, Miss Mama D said I get a shake and I get large fries. And I'm like, yes, you do. I'm like, you can have the entire fucking value menu for all I care. You saved my life right then. So, So that is when Mama D got chased by a sex worker, a sex worker liaison, and probably 3, I don't know who the hell, his thugs in a mall. But only got saved because of the client.
Those were called liaison security.
Yeah.
The security, yes, because we were the threat, let me tell you. But yeah.
Oh my God, that must have been so terrifying, but that makes such a funny story now.
Well, you have like a couple-hour drive home, with this kid in the car who's like slurping, because I bought her whatever the hell she wanted. Yeah. And she's like happy as hell. And she gets there and I had to go to the office and write this up and do all of this. And I'm like, but we lived. Yeah. And then we never heard from them again. Wow. And now I know what happened when she got out of this. I mean, we're not stupid. Yeah. We know what happened. But I like to remember her holding our hands. Yeah. And just with no thought in her head.
Well, then we run.
Yeah.
Those are the words.
And then we run.
Mama D, are you scared? Yeah, I am. Well, then we run.
I mean, low functioning, low IQ, that is smart, like street smarts,
Yes.
Just instinct and street smarts.
And that's almost the sad part.
Yeah.
Is that like
she
low
was
functioning, low IQ, but still had the wits enough to know that
danger.
When you're scared, you run.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and what I appreciate is that it could have been ugly. I mean, I'm staying with my mama. Yeah. I mean, who knows what,
Yeah.
and what would we have done?
Yeah.
But she had enough faith in me
Yes.
to know that I was going to
Protect her.
I would have
Help her.
protected her with my life.
Yeah.
I would have, but I know my odds were not going to be, too high in that situation.
Well, that's exactly
but I was
what you would have done. You would have protected her with your life in that situation, because those guys aren't coming in to scare anybody.
Oh, no. And I don't know what was
to take her. And if you're in the way,
we were going to.
You're going out of the way.
Yeah, they were probably just hoping these two women would see big burly dudes and just be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we're done." But that's not what they got.
Take her. That's what they were hoping for. Is, just take her. Just take her.
Yeah.
We're done. They weren't expecting her to grab your hands and go, we're going to go in this store, out this store, in that store, out that store, down the escalators, up the elevators, in that store, out that store.
I'll just never forget you said I could ride the escalator. No. And then we just stand there. We're just like.
And you have the fucking keys ready when we get to the car. And God damn it, I still want my milkshake.
Yeah. I'm getting fries, lady.
This is going to conclude part 1 of our, I don't want to say interview, our episode with Mama D. Be sure you tune in next Thursday for part 2. In the meantime, be sure to check out her podcast, Petals of Support, and we'll have the links on where to listen to those in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the Fuck My Work Life podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please follow, subscribe, rate, review, and tell your friends. Send your workplace stories to fmwlpod@gmail.com or call our rant line at 310-818-3273 for a chance to be featured on a future episode. For more fun, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at FMWLPod. You can also join our Discord community to chat with us and your fellow fuckers. We've got a Patreon where for $5 a month, you get early access to episodes, bonus content, and more. Grab yourself a t-shirt, pint glass, or yoga mat in our merch shop. All links can be found in the show notes. The Fuck My Work Life theme song is by Big Foss of the Chat Smash podcast. Remember, don't let the man get you down. Bye, fuckers.